They say not to judge a book by its cover, but was that really how you looked at things when you went to the Scholastic Book Fair? Or did you just buy whatever book had a character you liked on it? 'Cause I'd reckon it was the latter. So why the hell is this on a FNAF book cover? Five Nights at Freddy's book covers are an inconsistent mess, and I need to talk about them. Not enough people are willing to criticize the covers of these books when I collect these things because I like FNAF, but like collecting the books are like the things that I'm the least enthusiastic about because they don't look cool. Like they start off Fazbear Frights with this nice cover with Spring Bonnie coming out of a ball pit and it's awesome. You're like, oh my gosh, this is the stuff. This is the new book series. This is awesome. And then they start off the next book series and I expected it to be like a cool cover again. No, it's Lally's game. Who is Lally? Genuine question. I read the book and I still don't know. I genuinely feel like there is an important discussion to be had here, so let's roll all the way back to the beginning with the release of Five Nights at Freddy's The Silver Eyes. But before we get into all that, I want to remind everyone that the Slinky and Mini Turtle plushie only has 10 days left. If you want to help support the campaign and my channel, it'll be in the link in the pinned comment and the description. As always, thank you guys for letting this be a possibility, and I'm so insanely proud of it. So yeah, link in the pinned comment, only 10 days left, and let's move on to the video. Now, The Silver Eyes was the first Five Nights at Freddy's novel, as many of us know, and this book released at a time where the series wasn't very well established at all. It was only the second year of the series' existence, and Scott was already writing a novel. And this book came out before the series even had like a defined logo or anything, so this book cover doesn't have a very like appealing looking logo. I think it's kind of ugly. But the art on this cover is fantastic. Everything in the dark red light with Freddy's eyes glowing, and you could see all the other animatronics in the background in the forest. It doesn't really make much sense, but it's a pretty dang cool cover. I really love this artwork. But now, we move on to this video's antagonist, Scholastic. They bought the rights to FNAF books, and look what they did to it! Why is it in such flat lighting? Like, everybody knows Scott Cawthon's models look the best when they're put in very dynamic lighting, so I don't know why they decided to do this for the cover of this book, because it just looks infinitely worse than the other Freddy render. And it also lacks the featuring of all the other animatronics in the background, which was a really nice touch of the original. But hey, it's still the first book in the series, it gets the point across, it works really well. You can immediately tell that's the FNAF novel. It's got Freddy on the cover. That makes sense. And this book made Scholastic and Scott Cawthon so much money. Like, so much money. So obviously, the sequel was on the way. There's a big Funko merchandising push for it, with these things. They tease a whole new line of animatronics for this book called the Twisted Animatronics, which are just kind of the worst version of the Nightmare animatronics, but you know. New set of animatronics. This is easily the most hype a FNAF book ever got. And who's on the cover? Nightmare. Wanna guess who isn't in the book? What was Scott thinking here? What was his goals? Why did he pick this? It genuinely just makes absolutely no sense. Like, I guess because he kinda looks like Twisted Freddy if you squint really hard, but like, you could have just put Nightmare Freddy on the cover, you know? I don't know why you picked Nightmare. If you really wanted to have something like Twisted Freddy with the Nightmare Fredbear base, just color Nightmare Fredbear brown. Nightmare's appearance on this cover is genuinely so baffling, because he's not in the book has nothing to do with him, has nothing to do with nightmares, so I don't know why Nightmare even why is he here? It doesn't make sense. I do enjoy the blue glitchy background a lot. It really emphasizes like the more sci-fi approach of this book's horror. And to give credit, the lighting on this Nightmare render is a lot better than the Freddy render on the other cover. The textures still look kind of in this kind of lighting, but it looks fine. Just like the revised Silver Eyes cover was. These covers are fine. The Fourth Closet's cover is also fine. I'd even say it's the best of the three, because it has this cool like black and white Funtime Freddy. I don't know why, because this doesn't really incorporate anything into the book, but Funtime Freddy is in the book, so I think it makes sense. This is my favorite cover of the original novel trilogy. I don't really have much to say about it. Well, I guess if we're counting the original Silver Eyes cover, that one is my favorite, but this one's a close second. Now, Fazbear Frights. As much as I hate the artist, credit where credit is due, this is some of her better work. And I'd much rather not get into the controversy around Lady Fizzy in this video, so I'll just go into the art itself. So the Fazbear Frights series started off with a cover that is pretty unanimously agreed to be a pretty good cover. Spring Bonnie coming out of the ball pit is iconic, and it even inspired some movie posters. And I think a big reason why this cover works so well is how it put a recognizable animatronic front and center on the cover for the first entry in the series, and as far as I know, this book sold pretty well. And while I don't have any direct sales charts to back this up, I would not be surprised in the slightest that this was the best-selling book in the Fazbear Frights series. And the second book in the series, Fetch, also has a pretty good cover. It's not a recognizable character, but it's also a new character who does fit very in line with the previous FNAF animatronics, which makes this cover pretty similarly effective compared to the Spring Bonnie one. Next cover in the series also had a previously known character, Ella, on the cover. And while she's definitely one of the more obscure FNAF characters, she's one that the audience for these books will recognize. Especially nowadays after the movie, since, she was in the movie. Next book had Foxy, which I don't really have to explain why that's a good idea. Then Bunny Call had Ralpho on the cover, who is a very interesting thing to pick. Not only because he's drawn here as a little tiny toy when in the book he's like a 7-foot tall massive mascot suit, but also because they have clearly given up on trying to pick the most marketable cover story. Now, I do think Ralpho does make for a good cover due to his similarities in design to Glitch Trap, but if you wanted to capitalize on the Glitch Trap hype at the time, just put frickin' Springtrap or Glitch Trap on the cover, because you know who's in this book? Like, I seriously can't be the only person who's a little baffled by the fact that they had the opportunity to put one of the most popular FNAF characters on the cover, but they just didn't. Now, the next book in the series, Blackbird, also is a very interesting cover choice considering there is a story in this book that revolves around Shadow Bonnie. And I'm aware that a lot of people like this design, and I do too. I think Blackbird is a pretty cool looking design, but I think the fact that it doesn't look like a FNAF character at all, and the fact that the story itself, correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't have very much to do with Freddy Fazbear whatsoever. I'm again just kinda confused why they would consciously choose to put something less recognizable on the cover of the book. And then the Cliffs is alright, it's got Freddy, whatever. But now, we get to the deplorable. This cover is actually atrocious. Like, this is so far detached from what the series is, known to be, and I don't understand what the thought process was of making this the cover story. I don't like the story, by the way. I think Gumdrop Angel is a really stupid story that doesn't make sense at all. But I don't think there's a single fan of this design. If there's a fan of the Gumdrop Angel, please tell me. But I don't think there is. And it was picked over two potentially awesome book covers. The story Sergio's Lucky Day, it's about a tiny balloon boy. What we found is a retelling of Five Nights at Freddy's 3. Come on. I don't get it. I don't even have that much to say here. I just don't get it. I don't know why they would pick this. It looks bad. It's I would not have bought this if I wasn't a collector. Then the next book in the series, The Puppet Carver, has a pretty interesting cover. They're like puppet versions of the three kids who possess Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica. That's really interesting. They look like Showdown Bandit characters, but it's interesting. But it has absolutely nothing to do with the book. The story, the Puppet Carver story, I thought that was a pretty neat story. But these puppets are not even in the story. So that begs the question for me, why would you pick this one in the first place for the cover story? You literally had to make up characters to make it look interesting. I'm not even saying this book has many other good candidates for book covers, because Coil's the birthday clown from Jump for Tickets, that's a really ugly design. I'm kind of glad they didn't put it on the cover. And then Pizza Kit doesn't really have anything monster related in it. I mean, I guess there's a Freddy mascot in the book, and then the girl is a nightmare about Freddy, so you could just put a chef Freddy on the cover, but I get why they didn't want to do that because they already put Freddy on a cover in a previous book. But if they want to do Puppet Carver, then put something on the cover that actually fits the story. Like one of the wooden animatronics that he actually does make in the story. And then number 10, I don't even have to explain what's wrong with number 10's cover. Do I have to say anything about this? Does anybody like this? Do I have to say anything? And then for the final book in the series, we just got some dude. There's some scary monsters behind him. There's just some dude as the focus. I don't know why they decided to go with this, because, like, none of the other covers look like this. I don't know why they decided to just, this specific cover had to be this dude. But to give credit to this book, I don't really know what they could have put on the cover. Like, want to put the freaking, like, kids at play sign? Okay. The covers of the Fazbear Frights series start off strong, but drop off really hard at the halfway point. And I already talked about Lally's game earlier, so I'm just gonna skip over that, but let's get into Tales from the Pizza Plex. And I already talked about Lally's game earlier, so I'm just gonna skip over that, but let's get into Tales from the Pizza Plex. First two books, Lally's game and Haps, I don't really like them. I don't really like them at all. I think Somnophobia is a really cool cover, though, because I like Moon. That's a cool animatronic. I'm glad they used that on a book cover. But I think it's notable that this is the only Tales from the Pizza Plex cover that has a pre-existing FNAF character on it. Literally the only one. And I don't know what it is, but this book series just overall looks bafflingly unfriendly to newcomers. Bobby Dot's conclusion. What the hell is a Bobby Dots and what the hell is it concluding? The Bobby Dots conclusion is a sequel to a story from a previous book, but how is anybody who didn't read the previous book supposed to know that? Why are you making sequel stories now? The final book in the whole series has B7-2 as the cover story, which is just like, B7 was already a very poorly received story for just a lot of reasons that I'm not going to get into. So the fact that they made a sequel to it, and not only that, but made it the final story in the entire series is such a baffling decision. Especially because this exact same book has an entire lore dump on FNAF 4 as one of the stories, so they could have put something on the cover to represent that, but no for some reason. Also, why is there a foot on the cover? It looks so out of place. It adds nothing. Okay, like, this is a kind of creepy looking animatronic. I don't really mind that, but why is there just a random foot? The book where Nexie is the cover story also contains the backstory to the Mimic, who is the antagonist of FNAF Ruin and all the epilogues in this book series. So, the choice to not highlight that his backstory is in this book is so baffling. Like, I get you don't want to reveal his design pre-Ruin, because that would spoil the game a bit, but you could put some other stuff from the story, like the tiger plush that's very prominent. To be completely honest, the entire reason I got inspired to make this video is because that Nexie is the cover story to the book that contains the Mimic. Like, that is just crazy to me. But now that we've covered all our bases with the main book series, let's get on to all the guidebooks. Now, before we get to the absolute final boss of terrible book covers, not even just in the FNAF series, just in general, I think we should talk about the Ultimate Guide. This book was the third entry in the Freddy Files series. Freddy Files 1 contained FNAF 1 through Sister Location, and featured good old classic Freddy on the cover, makes sense. The updated edition, which added Pizzeria Simulator and Ultimate Custom Night, had a cover that reflected this, featuring Scrap Baby and some updated images underneath. So when they released the Ultimate Guide, the final edition that would include everything up from FNAF 1 through FNAF Help Wanted, what will they put? Maybe Glitch Trap to show the lore of Help Wanted. Maybe Dreadbear to show the peak of Help Wanted. Nope, Freddy Frostbear. What? Having a skin, a holiday skin, a Christmas skin from a dead mobile game on the cover of the Ultimate Five Nights at Freddy's Guide is really, really funny. But it also just makes no damn sense. Like, why did they pick Frostbear? This cover went through multiple revisions, too. It was originally going to have a Bonnie FNAF AR render, which, I mean, it's a nice render. It doesn't really make much sense, but I mean, the purple contrasts really nicely with the light blue. There was another revision that had a Springtrap one that's actually still on the inside cover of the book. And this one makes sense, because beating Springtrap in FNAF AR is pretty difficult and stuff. I mean, again, dead mobile game, but still, it makes a bit more sense than Frostbear, since he's the most difficult character in the game to beat. But no, they didn't go with Springtrap, they didn't go with Bonnie, they went with Freddy Frostbear, the light blue character on the light blue background. And why? It's not the worst thing in the world. Like, it looks fine, it's just, why would they pick this? They had two better covers ready beforehand, but they chose to change it to this for some reason. Was it because it released in December? You wanted to theme the whole book around the month that it released in? But oh well. I think it's about time we talk about the absolute worst offender in this entire video, the Character Encyclopedia. This book might be the worst looking official product, I've ever seen. And, it's absolutely abhorrent. It doesn't have to say the inside of this book doesn't have just as much problems, because it sure does. But I need to just have a word with the person who designed this cover, because what happened? Ignoring this absolute garbage pre-release FNAF AR render, why is he holding a tiny Nightmare Foxy? Why is Balloon Boy just floating in the void? Why is Circus Baby so insanely tiny at this bottom part? Why is there a tiny Foxy peeking from behind Funtime Freddy's hand? Why is this Nightmare Balloon Boy render so atrocious? Why are there just 3 randomly placed character PNGs on the bottom of the back of the book? There's a bunch of little things that piss me off about it too. Why is this puppet render so washed out, and why is it slightly going over the text? Just move it down a bit. Why is the text completely off-center on the back of the book, and why is it so small? Why is this static background so insanely blurry? The character renders on the sleeve are a neat idea. I like the Chica render, but why is this garbage Freddy render doesn't even fit in with the same lighting as Chica here? This is supposed to be a hardcover collector's item for the biggest fans of the series, and it looks like this. And I think a very big part of it is how rushed this book probably was. I mean, there's no proof to say that it was rushed, but just look at it. Luckily, the newest collector's FNAF book, which is the cookbook, looks very, very good. It has a very appealing design. It's got the nice neon aesthetic. I like this, and I hope they actually put time into designing FNAF books going forward. And for whatever crazy frickin' novel series Scott wants to do next, please pick good cover stories. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe, please, because it would be awesome. My new plushie's out right now. It's only going to be available for 10 more days at the time of uploading this. Probably 9 days at this point, but yeah. Get it while you still can. It's very limited time, and once it gets to 100 sales, it'll actually be able to be produced, so anything counts. And I'll see you guys in the next video.